Now, the recording was made in January of 2015, and a woman who had been desperate to be reinstated back into the JW congregation made a final phone call to one of the 3 elders that was assigned her case. She explained to her mother, who at that time would have brief conversation with her as she was trying so hard to get back in, that they were treating her roughly and very unlovingly. After trying fruitlessly for years to be accepted back into the fold, she had had it. At the last meeting they had with her after she had submitted a letter and had to wait 3 months in agony, one of the elders named Jim arrogantly said to her, "Why did you waste our time calling us into the back room when you're not even ready?" This crushed the woman and she became suicidal. It finally began to dawn on her that perhaps these men aren't being guided in Christ's right hand as the Revelation book and other Watchtower literature says they are. She began to question and research things, and it shocked her. She decided, though, to make one last call to the elders to try and see if they would indeed be loving and fair towards her, and also to show her mother the way that they had treated her. The following phone recording is being posted to illustrate the way that Jehovah's Witness elders often react to those that are suffering and hurt after being cast off by the Watchtower machinery. It is not posted to humiliate or shame this man, nor anyone else on a personal level. That being said, I can tell you that I know this fellow personally, and when I served on the body with him several years ago, we almost deleted him twice due to the publishers that he had discouraged or even downright enraged by his obtuse social behavior. Anyone that is from the Porterville, California area that I formerly served in will likely know about him. Of course, it's easy to appoint one of these goofs in men, but it takes an act of God to get them out of their exalted position. I would say that he is a perfect example of an insulated, pontificating working man by day and a JW rock star on Sunday and Tuesday nights when he arrives at the Kingdom Hall wheeling in his giant oversized elder case in his cheap suit while wearing a fanny pack around his waist. And I'm not making that up about the fanny pack, by the way. Some will listen to this recording and agree that it's good that it has been recorded. Others may not, and that's why these recordings are so vitally important in my opinion, so that we can have a constructive discourse and a debate about what is actually going on in the thousands of JW congregations worldwide where these sorts of scenarios and situations play out on a daily basis. I feel that most of these men are simply products of the Watchtower culture, and they're smaller versions of their theocratic heroes, the men who sit in authority on the governing body of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. My friend that went through this difficult time sent me this summation, quote, "I had tried to get reinstated like 5 to 7 months prior to this recording, and the elders yet again seriously mishandled me. The former CO, who is now an elder in my mom's congregation, tried to get involved in trying to help my committee work with me and my circumstances, and helped to get me reinstated finally, but they refused to speak to him. And that's when I finally threw in the towel and decided to stop trying to get reinstated, because I honestly believe that for whatever reason they had, they were never going to let me back in, and so I quit trying altogether. That's when I really started searching for answers as regards the overwhelming feeling that I had that Jehovah could not be directing these brothers. My mom talked to Dan and told him I was doing better and wasn't battling suicide like I was before, and he told him to help me to write them a brief letter and that they wanted to help me. So I did. I wrote at least 2 or 3 long emails, all of which went unanswered. I did not even get one reply from any of the 3 of them. I was already angry that they seemed to care and want to help me now that I wasn't as suicidal as I was before. At least that's what Dan made my mom believe. Yet they didn't give a shit or offer me any help when I was severely suicidal. But I thought, okay, maybe, which reflects on how terribly they had handled me the last time and also the 6 years prior to that. And they wanted to correct matters with me and do the right thing by me. So I wrote them. As per Dan's request, I was still completely ignored by all 3. So by this point, I was so enraged that they would ask me to contact them, only to turn around and ignore my correspondence entirely, and that's why I finally ended up calling him. Eric, I truly loved Dan at one point, and genuinely thought he was a good man and a beautiful person. I truly believe somewhere along the way he lost his way in his dealings and actions with me on my committee. The only reason I recorded the call was because if he mishandled me again, I wanted to have incontrovertible proof of it that I could send my mom. So there could be no he said, she said. So that if an impropriety occurred again, she could hear it with her own ears and not be left to wonder if perhaps I just misinterpreted what this brother, who was telling her how much they wanted to help me, but rather if in fact he mishandled me again, she could hear it for herself and not have to speculate about what transpired in the conversation. And at this point, I'd like to make an editor's note that this is yet another reason why I feel recording any discussions with JW elders is a good practice, so as to safeguard yourself and maintain a record of what transpired. All right, she continues, quote, I did not record it with any intentions, but so that my dear mother could see firsthand the way they were talking to her was absolutely nothing like how they actually talked to me and treated me. She was absolutely outraged by how he handled me in this recording when she listened to it later. But unfortunately, her Watchtower programming still chalks it up to, they're terribly imperfect men and that has nothing to do with Jehovah, etc., etc. Yet they hold the key to my freedom, but refuse to turn it. Thankfully, now I know TTATT, and now I don't want to be back in anymore. End quote. So the phone recording now follows. If you feel that it's worth sharing or commenting on, please do so and add your thoughts to the discussion.
Hello.
Hey Dan, it's Carrie.
Yeah. Thanks for calling. Yeah, I did get your emails. I generally prefer not to correspond of a certain nature over the email. I'm not into text messaging. So,
See, I prefer email because I don't have the best memory, and at least with emails I can go back and reread and understand, because with my mind sometimes I forget things and emails help me, you know.
okay.
But okay, so you read all my emails. Do you have any input?
Give me a second. I've got the volume up here. I got to turn it down. I'm getting ready to take off for a commitment. Give me a second here.
If you're busy right now, you can call me another time, because I really want to talk to you and I don't want to be cut off.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said,
Do I have any input?
if you have limited time, I'd rather wait until you don't, because like I really want to talk to you and I don't want to be cut off.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm in a lot of pain, as I'm sure that you got from my emails.
Yeah. Let me ask this. Now, I know that you have a lot of emotion and a lot of pain that you want to express. Sometimes, if possible, you're almost better to do that verbally, only because when you put it down in writing, sometimes we may have a tendency to put in things that gives a different impression.
Okay.
If that makes sense. I mean, I've had to write letters before, too.
It does make sense. So if there's anything confusing, please ask me so that I can verbally tell you.
Yeah. I'm just saying that because I remember even in the past when I've had to write correspondence of a very serious nature, and I have a tendency to put a lot of emotion into it. But sometimes that doesn't always come across the best for us. And so something down. Because sometimes when we when we put something down in writing, the recipient is saying, okay, what is this person really conveying?
Okay, so let me ask you, were you confused by what I wrote? Because I really felt that I was very clear in letting you know how much I love and respect you, but also sharing the deep pain that Gage and I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Was it confusing?
I don't think it was so confusing. I was not confused about what you wrote. And I realized, you're writing to me, and I'm going to...
I love you, Dan, and I was trying to...
Yeah.
Like I would speak to you in person, that's how I was trying to talk to you.
Yeah, and I hope you don't think that I'm offended or anything like that. I'm not. Well, let me share something with you, especially when it comes to correspondence that other brothers are going to read. And it's like when, and I know you were pouring out your heart when you wrote your letter for reinstatement. Sometimes shorter is better. And it's not so much that we didn't appreciate the fact you're pouring out your heart. But for some, because they don't always relate to what people are going through, sometimes it's better to be very short, to the point, expressing your love for Jehovah. And that way, none of what we put down in writing is confused. And I know that might be a bit painful to hear.
And I get that, but let me just interject something.
Yeah, go ahead.
I grew up with you and Art and Jim.
Yeah.
And so, of all brothers, I would have thought you would want to know my innermost feelings, just like Jesus taught us.
Yeah.
So, like, with the three, if it was some random brothers that I didn't grow up with, I wouldn't have been so open. But with the three of you, I grew up from infancy from. And I would have thought you wanted to know that. So are you saying that I did something wrong there?
No, it's not. It's not one of those issues of right or wrong.
Then what is it? Because I was trying to pour my heart out to you, like when I speak to Jehovah, I was trying to pour my heart out to you guys because you're his representatives.
Right.
So was that wrong?
Well, I think going back to it would be easier so the issues that you're dealing with right now are not clouded over. And again, for me, I understand you're pouring out your heart. But at the same time, when other brothers are involved too, it would be better if you just express just your feelings of how you want to come back to Jehovah. And maybe verbally, you can share some of your feelings.
Okay, so can I interject something? I get that about the letter I wrote 5 months ago.
Right.
Okay? But in this letter, my mom told me that you just wanted a simple letter from me. But can you understand my point that I love you, brothers. I grew up with you. You have a history with me and my father. You have a history with my family. And I'm sorry, but I was wronged. And I wanted to share with you, brothers, how my son felt, how we felt. And as my shepherds, honestly, before Jehovah, I'm not even joking, I thought you would want to know that. So by this last letter that I wrote to you, that yes, I know was very long-winded, I honestly, in my heart of hearts, before Jehovah, you know I don't lie. At least I would hope you know that about me by now. I'm a lot of things, Dan, but I am not a liar.
No.
I am probably one of the most integral person. I have so many flaws, it is disgusting. But I am probably one of the most integral people you'll ever meet, and I'll never lie. And so, like, I guess for me, like, when my mom told me to write a simple letter to you, I didn't know how, because I love you, brothers, and I wanted you to understand, like, what Gage just went through and what I went through, because I love you guys, and I wanted you to understand, because you're our shepherds, and I felt like the more info you have, the more that you can help us.
And please don't get me wrong. We do love you too. We love you, and we love your son Gage. Can I ask when you corresponded in the last email? So now I'm not absolutely sure on the last email.
Are you talking about the one like 4 or 5 months ago?
No. On this recent one, are you sharing that as another reinstatement letter, or were you just expressing how you feel right now?
Oh, I mean, I'm still completely clean before Jehovah, but I thought my mom told me that you guys just wanted to hear a little something from me. So, honestly, after my last letter, like, I just thought you guys didn't want me back.
Oh, no.
You want to know the truth? I just thought you didn't want me back. No, let me finish. I just thought you guys didn't want me back. So no, when my mom told me that you wanted to hear another letter from me, I didn't know that it had anything to do with a reinstatement letter. I thought when she said you guys just wanted to hear that I'm doing better, that's what I thought it was about, and that's what upset me.
I'm sorry, there is a bit of a misunderstanding there. I wasn't quite sure of the nature of your letter.
Well, that must be why the communication was, because I thought my mom, when I wrote that to you before, it was absolutely for reinstatement, but then the way I got made to feel was that wasn't an option. And so when my mom told me this like a week or two ago, I didn't think that you wanted me to write a reinstatement letter. I thought you guys just wanted to hear I was doing better, and it upset me because I was like, why do you care now? And forgive me, but when I was trying to get reinstated before, I've been clean before Jehovah now for at least over a year. When I wrote it before, like, I felt like I got totally rejected. And then, like, this time, when my mom said you wanted to hear I was doing better, it broke my heart because I love you, brothers. And I was like, okay, I'll tell them I'm doing better, but why do they care now? When I was suicidal, none of you guys called me. And I don't even care about myself. At that time, I was going to kill myself. I planned the ways out. But what hurt me the most is no one even checked on Gage. And so that's why this time I was like, in this last letter, and I know maybe it sounded jerky of me, but I was like, yeah, I'm doing better, but why do you care now? Because
we cared before.
Okay, but
I need to interject something too.
But can you understand it all? Hold on. Gage is calling me. Let me just ignore this.
Go ahead.
Can you understand it all? From my perspective, Dan, that when I was that when I wrote that before, not a one of you came by here or called or emailed or checked on me when I made it very clear that I was suicidal. And even more, I didn't even give a crap about me because I was gonna kill myself. What hurt me more than anything is that not a one person came to check on my son that was watching me go through that. And because I know how incredible our Heavenly Father is, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that that was not okay with Him. And did that discourage me? Of course. I hold no ill will against you. If I was reinstated, I'd be having you over once a month for meals because you are beautiful, both of you. And if I would just love to hug and kiss you every time I see you. But I will be honest, it broke my heart, too. Because I felt like, why do they care now? When I was suicidal and really seriously ready to kill myself, and my son was picking me up off the ground and begging me not to kill myself, none of you were around. And I told all of you that I was suicidal, and not one person checked on Gage. And as my shepherd, as one of Jehovah's people, I know you know that everyone failed him. Even if I didn't deserve it, which even Jehovah doesn't think that, my son did, Dan. My son did deserve that compassion. He did deserve someone coming in and letting him know we're here for you, son. And nobody else knows that for months I had to watch him because he was suicidal too. But there's things that happen in people's home that you just don't talk about, especially when you can't talk to the congregation. But what makes me sad is that boy went to the meetings for 2 or 3 years alone because his mom was so sick in her head. But he loves Jehovah. Did I lose you?
No, I'm listening. No, you haven't.
But despite that he loved Jehovah, what support did he get, Dan, during those years? And in that very last part, after I wrote the letter to you guys, and I let you know I was suicidal and all of that, and he knew that, not a one person came to check on him. And if you don't think that messed with his psyche, I don't know what to tell you. Because he trusts Jehovah explicitly, and he knows we have the truth. But he was so discouraged that not a one person cared enough. Even our shepherds, even our elders cared enough about his mother, who he saw trying my darndest all the time to do what's right, who stayed away from worldly people for the last 4 years and stayed isolated. He saw what I did. Nobody else did, but you know what? Jehovah did. And that is my only solace. It doesn't matter what any of the congregation saw or any of you elders saw. Before Jehovah, he knows that I tried to live clean all that time. But my mind was messed up and I couldn't go to meetings. And it wasn't because I was lazy or just didn't want to go. I had a serious mental disorder. But for my son to watch that and know what I dealt with, and then for not one brother to come and check on him, can you imagine knowing the truth and loving Jehovah, how much that devastated my poor son. And you studied with him. You know how much he loves Jehovah. And you know he knows it's the truth. But can you imagine how heartbreaking and stumbling it was for him to know that Jehovah's people weren't there for him? Can you even fathom, at a young, impressionable age, the toll that took on his mind? And thankfully, he doesn't blame Jehovah for it or the brothers and sisters. He just thinks it's so sad that we have the truth, and that even in the truth, we fail to show our fellow brothers and sisters the love and support they need. And you know that's true. If you don't know that's true, you're blind. Because it happens. And it's not because there's anything wrong with the truth. It's because we are imperfect human beings. And Jehovah talked about that. Jesus talked about that. It would be in the congregations. I'm just grateful that my son, experiencing the worst side of it, hasn't lost his love for the truth in Jehovah after how egregiously he's been treated.
Do you understand part of the reason, though, that when we wrote the last letter for reinstatement, and you had asked to have your mother with you, and I understand you're going through a lot of difficulties, but with correspondence with Jehovah's organization.
The order is rapidly fading, for the times they are a-changing.
I'd like to thank you for listening to my channel, for subscribing. Let me know if you have any recordings of this kind, recordings talking to Jehovah's Witnesses, especially elders, traveling overseers. Send these in. Let's get this aired. Let's get this out into the open so more people can see and they can judge for themselves what this organization is like and what the fruits of the Watchtower organization and Jehovah's Witnesses are. Email me at JWStruggle@gmail.com. Thanks.